Welcome. I'm so glad you could join me for this practice of calming the tension and coping with the stress of current times. So I'd just like to invite you all to just know that no experience is needed, but to please check with your healthcare practitioner if you for any reason feel that this may not be for you. You should always check with them if you have any pre-existing health conditions before practicing this or any other yoga practice. I also want to invite you to remind you to practice at your own speed. Whether this is digital and you're able to watch it, you can always stop the recording so that you can flow at your own pace and really not feel like as though you have to hurry through it. Because one of our number one observations within the practice of this 5,000-year-old tradition is nonviolence. So the way in which we practice always comes from a place of loving kindness and no harm. So as I'm sitting here right now, that would be my first suggestion to you. It's just as you're sitting, if it's uncomfortable or for some reason you just simply cannot sit cross-legged, then number one, don't. Sit in a chair. Number two, I'm sitting on 2 blankets, and I'm going to invite you, that was the second suggestion now, is we're going to need a little bit of what we call props. And today, all I'm using here at my home studio, since I am sheltering in, is that I have a couple of very firm blankets. You don't have to have yoga blankets, but you might even look around your home to see if you have some firm blankets, or maybe you have beach towels. Also, I have a yoga mat, a non-stick yoga mat that is not very spongy, and it's very dense and helps me to stay connected. I also have connected through the soles of my feet and to feel supported but yet not sink in. The other thing I have are just a couple of sofa pillows over here. Because I'm in my home studio, here I also have my sofa. So I could actually use my sofa cushions to put under my legs, which later on I'll show you how we're going to do that. So as I was saying, want to always practice and observe this ancient tradition and the idea that none of this is forced. So begin by sitting, however it is you choose to sit. I'm going to elevate my hips from the back here with a little bit of a wedge of a blanket. Get yourself to feel as though now you're centered over your right and left sitting bones or the bottom of the pelvis. And just start to feel your body with the touch of your hands. Because one of the things that happens and occurs when we become anxious, fearful, or stressed is that we start to take ourselves away from the present and we start to perhaps breathe shallowly or maybe kind of vacate mentally the feeling of being present. And so what I want to invite you to do is just put your hands on your legs and feel that you're present. You feel the touch of your hands, feel the pressure on your legs. I don't know about you, but during stressful times, I tend to find myself speeding up a lot, running around, hurrying, doing this or that, running from task to task to task. They may not be necessary tasks, but I just find myself scurrying around, scurrying. And another thing that might happen is you might completely shut down, feel like you're just frozen. And you just don't want to get off the couch, or maybe you're finding you don't want to get up at the same hours you normally would get up at. Well, the third thing that might happen is you may find yourself being very argumentative. Not necessarily fist fighting, I hope, but you might find yourself more argumentative in that way. So these 3 aspects come under what we call the sympathetic response in what's called the autonomic nervous system. And this is very crucial, and it's a key to understanding how you can open the door to better calming, health, and well-being. So if you can understand that when you get stressed out, first of all, one thing that happens is you start to change your breathing. So right now, just invite you to place your hand on your abdomen, or place your hand on your chest as well. And just to notice that you are breathing. And just as you're noticing your breathing, you might notice where the breath is in your body? Is it in your nose? Does it expand in your chest, your belly? How fast is it? Is there time for in-breath and out-breath, or do you rush from one to the next? And then where is the breath? So again, is it a shallow breath where it's just really right up here, or just like almost like a little bird breath where you can barely tell that you're breathing? Or might it be a very deep breath down here, just a belly breath? So we're noticing our breath because our breath is key in understanding this automatic part of our physiology. So during times of stress, automatically what will happen when we have an encounter or we have a memory of something that we're really stressed about is we go into fight, flight, or freeze. And so this is the three things I talked about. We shut down, we don't want to move. We're just like, I'm not moving. I can't take a step foot forward. You just sort of feel sunken, stuck, like the deer in the headlights. Maybe you can relate to that. Another thing that happens is what I talked about earlier, scurrying around, kind of like you're just busy, like rushing, fleeing. You might then also be argumentative. And I was kind of thinking about this because when I think of fight, flight, or freeze within the normal context, I usually think of literally the idea of you fight, right? But no, this isn't just fight. Like an animal in nature might get into a fight when it's threatened, an attack. Or it might be like the possum that plays dead and freeze. But this is like, are you finding yourself arguing? And then if it's the case, it's normal, right? But we want to take control of that. So now I'm going to invite you to go back to the breath, because the breath, that breath is the key, the freedom. And so now just notice, and pretty soon we're going to go from sitting to lying. So it's not quite so, perhaps gravity isn't playing on our back so much. So right now, I'm going to ring my little, it's called a singing bowl, that actually one of my students brought back from, her husband actually brought back from a business trip to Nepal. So let's listen to this beautiful and follow the sound. You might close your eyes. And now as you hear the sound the next time, take a breath in and a breath out. When you hear a bell, this will say it's a bell. When you hear the bell, it's a reminder to wake yourself up to the present place and time. So you hear it, reminds you to breathe in. I am in the here. Or simply, I am breathing in. Taking the breath in, letting it flow out. I am in the now. And then locate yourself in space, because when we're in one of these frazzled states, we're not really present. Our body is here, but our mind is elsewhere, our emotions are elsewhere. So place yourself and notice where you're at. Put your hands on your thighs, whether you're in your home or you're sitting out on a patio, but just feel we're out in nature. Maybe you're using your cell phone to do this practice, but feel and be present. And I invite you now, if it feels comfortable and safe to you, just close your eyes. And as you feel now, and place your hands and touch the top of the legs, you say, I am in the here. And when the breath flows out, I am in the now. And you let that breath flow. And this is where we're going to travel on to next. A couple of other props that you may need, and this will be at the beginning of this this practice, is a reminder to have a strap And I just happen to have this at home. The rest of my stuff was actually at my own yoga studio, so at my place of where I normally practice. So I had this, and it's just simply an old martial arts belt, and I have a bag of rice. And you could use a two-pound bag of rice. If you could actually find something a little larger, it might even be better. I'm not quite sure of the other sizes, but maybe you can find a 4-pound bag of rice, 4 pounds. And this is going to help us to tap into our breathing, because our breathing directly affects our nervous system. And within this part of our nervous system called the autonomic nervous system, there are 2 branches that our body physiology takes. It might, when it's triggered with fear, it might take the fight, flight, or freeze. When it's noticing that things are at peace and ease, our breath calms down, our breath communicates with our heart rate, our blood pressure, our pulse, our cortisol levels. They all calm down. Our heart rate variability goes up. That's a good thing. The rest time. So one way in which we can actually start to tap into our breath now is through the use of a little bit of weight on our diaphragm. So our diaphragm is this dome-shaped muscle that helps us to breathe, because without our diaphragm and without our muscles here between our ribs, all these helpful muscles, we wouldn't be able to breathe. So what I'm going to invite you to do is to bring yourself down to the floor and to adjust. If you need it, you might place a blanket under your head so that your head stays in line with your spine. So now I'm going to roll down. Check in. Again, I don't want my head too high or too low. I just want my head in line with my spine. I'm going to invite you to take your rice bag, place it right above your navel. Release your arms about a foot to a foot and a half away from your body to gently release tension and open through the collarbones and the chest and the abdomen. Now you can also stretch out, if it does not cause you any back pain, one leg and then the other. However, if by lying flat you have the discomfort in the low back, then use a couple of cushions below your knees to elevate and support your back. So here I might just take these 2 cushions. Better yet, I would even take a big square sofa cushion or 2 of them to really release the pressure off my low back and create more of a neutral low back curve. So I'm going to tuck that in real close to my back of thighs. And then again, I'm going to invite you to come back down. Place your rice bag, spread out your shoulder blades. And then take a long, leisurely out breath. Through your mouth or blow it out your lips. Now spread out, cross your upper back and make space between your shoulder blades by wriggling from side to side. Then release, stretch out your right leg, stretch out your left leg. Feel the weight of the rice bag. Close if you like, or soften your eyes if that feels safe. Now you might relax your mouth and tongue, your lips and throat, and start to feel gravity. In other words, feel the heaviness of your body sinking towards the floor and the supports beneath you. And let yourself sink and be held. Release your heels, feel those heels and let them drop. Feel the rise and fall now of your belly, or what's called your solar plexus, just above your navel. This we call the power center. And your solar plexus, right about here, above the navel, is highly connected to our primitive instincts of intuition and gut feeling about something. So This is, in yoga we call this the power center as well. So it's a place of power, strength, but also intuition. So breathe and see if you can just release and allow your belly to rise and fall as you relax your calves, the weight of your head, your feet and toes, from your knees, continuing up through your thighs, stretching out, and again, release and let out a sigh. Big breath in and then really empty it out. Because it's on that exhalation that you start to actually tap into and touch into the part of your nervous system, your autonomic nervous system, that's called the parasympathetic, or the rest, restore, rejuvenate path. So we have the fight, flight, or freeze path within our autonomic nervous system, meaning these things happen automatically. You know, they're the gas and the brake. So now when we exhale that long out breath, just blow it out. That longer out breath actually taps into and touches into a nerve called the vagus nerve that is directly connected to our parasympathetic calming response. So why the rice bag? Or why a weighted, what we call a breathe pillow that they sell at yoga businesses and so forth that you could purchase if you wanted to. But why the rice bag? Because as we breathe now, and I might invite you to place your hands here over the breathe bag or the rice bag, and as we breathe, see if you can allow your breath to drop down to your belly and move. So it could go from belly and kind of rise up. And when that happens, you'll feel that bag rise and fall. So take 3 cycles of breath now, in and out being 1 cycle, and notice the rise and fall. And let go and let your body be relaxed, the back side of the body heavy and supported. As you take those 3 breaths, what you're doing now with this, or even with something a bit heavier, like a little bit of a heavier rice bag, is you're strengthening your diaphragm. And that diaphragm is actually connected partially to that vagus nerve, which when we breathe, this diaphragmatic breath, where the belly goes out as we breathe in and breath rises up. Try that now. Let your belly expand out as you breathe in, breath rises up. You're using your diaphragm, and as we breathe out, belly sinks down. And the diaphragm, which is like a big dome-shaped muscle intersecting your torso, it presses as you exhale, presses to empty the lungs. It pushes up as your belly drops. Okay? So you don't have to get too confused by it. That's the beauty of it. It happens automatically. Now I want to show you another option for some of you that feel more comfortable lying on your abdomen. If, however, you feel that it's uncomfortable or you can't catch your breath or there's any back pain, so forth, then of course, continue to practice on your back in this position we call Shavasana within yoga. This means corpse. Now I'll show you the pose if you feel comfortable lying on your abdomen. So I'll take my knees into my chest. I'll come up. I'm going to now move my pillows aside and use my blanket. I will no longer use my rice bag right now. I'll just set that aside. And I'll take my blanket. I have 2, but all I really need right now is 1. So I'm going to take one of these blankets, or again, you could use a flannel sheet and roll it up and make it, because it's nice and dense, or you could use, if you have a big beach towel. Okay, but you want it pretty big, so this is folded in half. I'm going to roll like a loose, little bit of a snake. Okay, now this is not going to go below my chest. It's going to actually snuggle up, kind of like I'm hugging something here. I'm going to lay it down above my chest, and gently here now, I'm going to lie down in what is called Makarasana, or crocodile, which will help us strengthen the diaphragm deeper. You can also use, if one blanket is not enough, you could use 2 blankets. So here I've got tucked in my blanket above my chest. I'm raising my chest and shoulders briefly, and I'm separating my feet 2, 2.5, 3 feet apart, and then I'm easing my hips into the floor. I can, if I choose to, I may turn my toes out, I may turn my toes in. That really, you need to pay attention to your body and how it reacts, and move towards the gentler, good feeling way of being. So now I'm going to lower my forehead. And as you lower your forehead now, you can release your chest into the blanket. I invite you to release your arms in towards the floor, your chest and belly, your thigh tops, quadriceps, shins, everything sinking. And then I might try just turning my head out to the side, resting on the temple, and releasing again. Just experiment with toes in or toes out, what feels best, through my knees and back. Oh, this feels so delightful. So you're just letting your body sink and settle. Again, if you have a large chest, or you might be overweight, sometimes it's uncomfortable to lie on our stomachs. But try it periodically, because it will get easier. And you will feel better and better. So now, as your forehead rests, we're going to just simply be here. Really, everything now that happens is really more so from the inside. So you won't see anything with your eyes, so you can just close your eyes now and rest your forehead down on your folded arms. And now as you breathe, it's quite different than lying on your back. Feel your abdomen. Press into the ground as you breathe in. Feel your abdomen. As you breathe out, relax. Take 6 cycles of breath here and notice how your back and belly respond. As you let go of your chest, let your body be hugged by the blanket and held by the ground. Letting go deeper and deeper. Now as you breathe in, draw that breath up a little higher, not just to the abdomen, but up higher. Let the breath rise, and now you might feel the breath moving up your back. And you might even feel, undoubtedly, your back here rising and falling. As you breathe in and out. And now I invite you to let go and really relax across your thighs, your pelvis, and let them settle in deeper across and down through your ribs and into the floor. And as you breathe, the same strengthening is happening when you are lying on your back in what is called Shavasana, or corpse pose with the rice back. So now just blow out the tension. Or sigh it away. You might find as the time goes on, and you're typically in this posture, this restorative posture, where the work is being done from the inside out for about 5 restful minutes. Letting go yet another layer deeper and deeper. as you're lying there, let that breath flow up and picture the breath like the sound of a wave, a sound wave, a tide rushing up and flowing up through your body as you breathe in. Imagine that breath or that sound wave flows from your pelvic floor or your tailbone up through your body and spine to the very top of head and brain. And then as you exhale, feel and sense the breath flowing down and flowing all the way out. Like there's a tide flowing out to sea now. Now bend your knees. Release your back, your belly. Bring your thighs closer together. And now get that sense of feeling grounded or connected through your hips to the floor. We're going to take our hands beside the chest now. And elbows point back. And we're going to, if able, with no harm, we're going to come up on the inhale. I'm going to take the time to support my knees with a blanket and stretch back. If this does not feel comfortable, if you cannot kneel, of course you can roll over onto your back and just hug your knees to your chest. So from here, I come up, and if all goes well, I might be able to get my hips down towards my heels, or I might be able to fold my arms, separate your knees, ease from side to side. Feels so sweet. Release your forehead onto your folded forearms. So that's kind of the what we think of as we look in a book. We see, okay, that's the child's pose, but child's pose doesn't work for all of us. So what we might need to do is, first of all, double check that it agrees with your knees. If it doesn't, not a good posture for you, and you roll over to your back and just hug your shins, your knees, and just release your back in that way. So here we can take our cushion. I'm sitting on a cushion. Again, if one cushion is not enough, then I could take yet another cushion. All right, now I have to come forward, right? So here, I'm going to just do this with one cushion. I could also take another cushion here, and I'm just going to fold forward. Another way to do this is turn the head to the side. And long out breath. Exhale through. Now the next breath out through the nose. Or I can rest on my forehead. And then with the forehead grounded, we call that, or feeling that pressure at the forehead, we can say the sound or sing the sound. So I might do that with my arms extended forward if I have the flexibility. Or again, I might fold my arms or use a cushion, use a pillow underneath and forward. Okay, so there's lots of options here. Okay, so I might go like this. And as you breathe in that posture, just feel the dissolving of tension. And it's like the breath moves in there. Like it's almost like when you breathe deeply in those positions, it's like your breath is massaging out the muscular tension here. So, and just surrender. So we often think of that word surrender as a failure. But in this respect, I invite you to look at that word surrender in a new way. To surrender into sweet surrender. sweet cradling of the earth, sweet support of the restorative posture. So to perhaps look at that word surrender in a new way, in a new light. Okay, so now that we have done our Shavasana, our crocodile, if we were able, now we're going to come down onto our backs. And so again, I invite you to make sure that your head stays in line with your spine. Take your blanket to the far end of your mat. And again, if I need it, I'm going to place a couple of pillows under my knees, and I'm going to roll down here, check in with my blanket. It's always a good idea to support your cervical spine. So now we're going to take the knees into the chest, and again, we're in another flexion, just like in child's pose on our knees. We were bending forward, so in that position, now you might hold your shins. Or you might hold your hamstrings, your knees. And to release your back in yet another way. And rock yourself. Feel yourself with your knees over your hips, rocking across the top ridge of your hip. In these times of stress, we tend to think a lot of thinking going on, a lot of puzzling and rumination that maybe doesn't always get us anywhere, but it expends a lot of energy, and oftentimes it brings us back into this fight, flight, or freeze mode. So one of the things we can do, if it's safe for us, and if we don't have any contraindications, meaning there's nothing health-wise that would keep us or prevent us from doing this safely, would be a twist. Okay, so one of the more gentle or easy twists is to do it lying down because there's not the pressure on the spine. So now I'm going to invite you to bring your arms out to the side, bring your feet down to the floor, and then we're just going to swoosh our hips, meaning our buttocks and pelvis, over about 5 or so inches to the left. Then we're going to lift the hips, swoosh the hips, lower down, and I'm going to raise my feet off the ground, arms out to support me. I still have a cushion here if I need it, under my outer thigh. Now I'm going to invite you to take a breath in, a leisurely breath, using that diaphragm, breathing from your belly up to your heart. And then when you breathe out, palms help you to stabilize as your legs twist to your right. Let your head stay centered. And I'm going to invite you to relax your jaw. Relax any need to have to anticipate talking or defending yourself, but just let the jaw relax, the mouth and tongue. And then rest your right hand outside of your left knee for further guidance. Now just enjoy your breath and picture your breath going up your spine. As you're taking a breath in, and as you're taking a breath out, picture and imagine and feel your breath going down your body from your chest towards your belly, towards your tailbone, towards your feet. Taking your time is key here, so breathe up from your belly, solar plexus, heart, chest. Imagine you breathe all the way up to your brain, skull, and then exhale all the way down and all the way out, letting go even deeper through your legs and your gripping. Now you might place your opposite hand, your left hand, to your left side or even the low back, and start to feel at the base of the rib cage and by the low back your breath. invite yourself to slow a bit without force, to really relax and take your time and sort of like stopping and smelling the roses, but the roses that you're smelling are the enjoyment of your very own breath. Sometimes at the end of the day, it feels like we haven't taken one conscious breath all day long. So these deeper, slower breaths that rise up as we breathe in. You might even pause at the top of the in-breath, and then the breath flows down and out as we breathe out. Helping to empty that breath. We might just pull that belly in a little bit to help empty the breath. These breaths calm us. So for the next 1 or 2 breaths, just feel that breath and enjoy each part of it. Flowing in through the nose, going up in your imagination, feeling it rise, sinking down. And just do this for 2 more breaths. Do this practice with me. Calming as you breathe out. I am breathing out. And as you breathe in, I am breathing in, and it takes all that spinning mind and it brings it right back to your core. Now, I invite you to take your arms back out to your sides. And if you are able, you can take both legs back as you exhale, pressing through your arms and shoulder blades, roll onto your back. Or another way of doing that is to take one leg at a time. If you need a gentler version, place your feet and reshift your hips. Now I'm going to take this cushion that I've had, and that cushion is going to go to the other side just in case I might need it. Place my feet on the floor. I'm going to lift my hips up, tuck my tailbone under, and move my hips about 5 inches to the right. Lower my hips, raise my feet. If there's no pain with that, take a breath in, like that breath is flowing through you, like a breeze through a window. And exhale, ground through your right arm, ground through your palm, and just check in that you've shifted your hips enough, and you're going to let your legs travel over to your left. Left hand, if it's helpful, can come to outer right knee. Release the back of your head, your eyes into your eye sockets, and feel the expansion, contraction of your rib cage. Now imagine on the next breath, breathing all the way up as the breath flows through your spine. Like taking in liquid through a straw, you bring it up. Taking in the breath through the body, we draw it upward. And through the nose, exhale it down from the chest to the solar plexus of the belly and out. Like a clearing breeze. Again, on your own now, take a few more breaths here. Bringing the breath up and letting go. Deeper and deeper into the weight of the legs. Letting go more and more. And if for any reason there's pain or discomfort in any of these postures, even if it's a restorative posture and it's painful or uncomfortable, please come out of it and rest until the next posture. Bring that breath all the way up in your chest. Smile as it comes up. Center your mind on that spine. And as you breathe in, you can use the sound so. As you're feeling it flow up, letting your mind rest in that sound. And as you breathe out, hum as you breathe out. So as you breathe in, you hear it in your mind as you breathe in, and you let your mind rest on that sound, and then as you breathe out, hum. Now we'll draw our arms back out, and on the exhalation, either one leg at a time like this, comes back, right? Or together, if we have the strength, and we want to use a little bit of energy and incorporate some energy. So we're going to exhale back, bring our feet to the floor, reshift. Notice I reshifted my hips. Good. Now we're just going to lift the head, neck, and shoulders, unless it's contraindicated for neck injuries. And we're going to reach forward. So I could do this cradling the base of my skull, drop my chin. Starting to feel better? I hope so. Good. Breathe to that belly. Let it just undulate. Like a rolling, or just let your breath be here. This is where the calm breath is, the belly. Like the breath of a little pup sleeping. The breath is here. Lower down. Good. And then we're going to move into a few little repetitive type of postures, moving postures here. And we're going to coordinate this with our breath. However, I just want to remind you that if at any time you feel at all short of breath, anxious, unsure, just pause, stop the digital media, take a break, and just know that your breath knows just what to do. There is no force here. There is no criticism. So I'm going to roll up from my side, just move my cushions out of the way because, quite honestly, right now we don't need them. Okay? And then we're going to lower down. You're going to sit up tall here. Then we're going to lower down. Whoop. Good. Great. And so as we're resting here and we feel our feet on the ground, we're going to move into a gentle knee to chest. So here I'm going to take my knee and I'm going to start to notice how long it takes me to breathe in and how long it takes me to breathe out. So I'm just going to let myself relax into my belly and let my breath relax into my abdomen. And notice the space. Take a moment. Notice where you are. And on the exhalation, take your knee to chest. Feel the coolness about you or the warmth. Now as you take a breath in, move your knee forward. Again, we're breathing to that belly or from the belly. It might be another way of putting it. So now we're going to just pause for a moment. And on the out breath, I want you to imagine that your abdomen is like a little bit of a balloon that you are going to deflate. Okay? So take a breath in. Let your belly rise or expand. And as you exhale, you're going to take your knee to your chest. As you inhale, you're going to move your knee forward. And let a gentle smile come to your lips. As you exhale, take knee to chest. Empty the breath, deflate the belly. Now I'm going to invite you to do this to a 4-second count. Inhale as we move the knee forward. Breath rises up. And a 4-second count. Exhalation as the knee comes towards the chest. Explore on your own. Inhale to the count of 4, knee moves forward. Breath rises up. Exhale to the count of 4, empty from the chest. Breath, imagine, goes down and out. Inhale to the count of 4, knee moves forward. I am in here, you say. Exhale, the knee to the chest. Count of 4. Now we're going to try to extend that breath, because by extending it, remember that when we are anxious, we breathe shallowly. We breathe down here, or I'm sorry, up here. We breathe shallow breaths. And so when we want to tap into that autonomic nervous system's branch of the calming, or that, parasympathetic, we want to start to let that breath go a little deeper. We don't want it just here in the chest, in the shallows, where it might kind of trigger this fight, flight, freeze. We want to let that breath rise up. So now let's see if we can take a breath to the count of 5. So in breath, the knee moves forward, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale to the count of 5, 3, 2, 1. You're emptying the breath, right? Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, you're not counting, you're breathing. And exhale, 1. Now inhale, stretch up. Stretch to the count of 5. And exhale. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stretch up. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to stretch out. Breathe in, stretch down and up to the count of 5. Stretch from your hip through to your heel. And exhale. Knee to chest. Inhale. 3, 4, 5. Maybe even the count of 6. Stretch. And exhale. 2, 5. Relax. Inhale, stretch out your leg. Good. All the way to your toes and then exhale. And then let's just relax. Good. All right. Take a break. Notice how you feel. Let your knees fall into one another, or another option is to put your knees under your cushions or your blanket or what have you. And another suggestion for those of you that enjoy perhaps essential oils is to use a calming essential oil or an uplifting essential oil. A pure, again, I would recommend a pure botanical essential oil. Perhaps lavender is always considered calming. And another one that comes to mind for upliftedness, if you're feeling really down, are citrus essential oils. And you can just, again, this is something you can do a little research on, some books from the library or some internet research, just to see if maybe there's something, little essential oil, not ingesting, but using it in a diffuser or perhaps on your skin if safe. But again, that's something to research. Those are calming and uplifting scents. So here, we're going to come down again safely. I've got the cushions under my knees. They could be a little higher, I'll be quite honest. I want to make sure they're comfortable. And I'm checking in. Just going to check in. So I just invite you to relax. And just notice the difference on the right side of your body. We did a little bit more work on the right side, right? Correct? Yeah, we did. And then the left side of the body. Good. And rest one hand at your abdomen, one at your chest. And let your brain nestle into your skull and your eyes settle and cradle into the eye sockets. And just let that breath rise up and flow down. And notice your thoughts now. And you can recognize those thoughts. You can just say thought. Because oftentimes we have just hundreds, my goodness, who knows how many thoughts a day that just pop into our mind. We don't even think we create them. They just pop up. So we can notice those thoughts and just let them drift by. Maybe those thoughts are worrisome thoughts or painful thoughts or anxious thoughts, and you just recognize them. And you might notice the thought. You might just label it as thought. You say thought, it's like noticing it's there, and then go right back to enjoying your breath. Flows in and out through the nostrils. Let your heels release, your calves, your hips, your back, shoulders, all settling in now as you release your arms. Lift them just slightly off the ground and let them plop. Dropping down. Resting your chin, jaw muscles, the masseter muscles that help you to open and close the mouth. The tongue rests in the mouth, flowing freely, floating freely. Lips relaxed. Brow, a good indicator now, just to check in throughout the day. Is my brow tense? Am I breathing? You might take a hand to the chest. Or you might just stroke your brow and remind yourself to relax your brow, to release your jaw. Now we'll slide our feet back in again, and we'll move on to our lying down still. We'll move on to continue and repeat on the opposite side, on your left side now. Okay? So we're going to hug now as the right heel comes below the knee and the heel's quite close to the sit bone to keep this back supported. I'm going to exhale. And then just hold there and breathe and feel the back and belly breathing. Relax your shoulders, your thighs. And then see if you can breathe a deeper breath into your belly, perhaps a count of 4 or 5. Maybe by now your breath has already gained some strength through the diaphragm. So you breathe in to a count of 4 or 5. And breathe out, empty the belly like a balloon to the count of 5. Inhale the knee forward. Notice the texture of the objects in your room and the light. Notice the feeling in your body, the sensations or the language that the body speaks to you. So exhaling the knee in to the count of 5, emptying the breath, inhaling the knee thigh forward. Smiling helps to uplift you, believe it or not. It's like this painkiller. It's like an antidepressant. Laughter is the best medicine for sure. And as you exhale, take the knee to chest. And then inhale, open up like kind of think of a jackknife. Even flexing that foot. Good. Exhale, bend the knee to the chest. Inhale, slide the foot across the floor and stretch out through that left leg, left thigh. Exhale. Knee comes in. Inhale, stretching out. You can also, by the way, use a strap to do this if you can't quite straighten your leg and there's a lot of tension there. Feel free to use a strap, which of course I mentioned earlier that I have a strap here. So exhale. Inhale. Lengthening all the way down and out. It's getting rid of some of that physical tension that breaks the stress cycle. Slide the foot in. So when we physically de-stress, we mentally de-stress. That's why yoga is so important. Physical postures and the mental aspect. It's said by modern researchers in the field of psychology that trauma, when unprocessed in a healthy way, is held in the cells in the tissue of the body, and it literally changes the brain, and therefore it cannot just be reached by cognitive type of therapy alone. It can in tandem, but when you have trauma that's not processed, and I would say that what we've all experienced is kind of like a big trauma for all of us. So we're processing that by moving our body physically Talking about it is helpful, but it is held in our body as well. So physical movement, breathing, these are all excellent complements to traditional types of therapy. Now I'm going to go ahead and invite you to roll over. Yep, come on over. Oh, come to your side. Feel your breath and then help yourself come up. Great. So, there's another restorative posture that I'd like to share with you before we get too close to the end of our practice session here. And so I'm going to take my blanket again, or again, you can take your sheets that are flannel, cotton, or you can take your beach towels, whatever you got. Again, it doesn't have to be a yoga blanket. And I'm just going to fold it basically, begin with, in a rectangle. And then I'm going to fold it into a square. Okay. So there's numbers of ways of doing this. Here, I'm going to actually also have either another blanket, or I could use this blanket I already have folded. I can put that here. I want to make sure my head is supported. So first of all, I'm going to test this out. I'm going to take, and I want to have something under my knees again. So I will have my cushions. Again, I would suggest if you're at home and you have the time, get something even higher to release your back. However, this here, this little, oh, my mat is getting a little wrinkled, but this right here is where we're going to roll down and place this little bit of edge at the back of the chest. Okay, now I don't want my head so high that my chin is pressed into my chest. I don't want my blanket so low that my head is tipped back like this in hyperextension. I want my head, chest supported so that I can open up across my ribs, my diaphragm, and I can release. And let your back settle in towards the blankets and readjust as you need to, because you really want these blankets even so that you're not feel like it's like the Princess and the Pea. If that blanket isn't folded quite right, it'll feel like there's this really gnawing edge making you uncomfortable. So two options. I might take my legs and cross them like so, if it's available to me, meaning if it's comfortable. It's not comfortable. Simply again, relax. Now release your eyes and make sure you're warm enough and that you're comfortable enough. As your body begins to relax more deeply, it will become cooler. So cover yourself with a quilt or a blanket before you get into this position so that you feel really comfortable. Now feel across your back, your upper back, and let it settle in towards the cushions and blankets. Begin at the top of your head and imagine that warmth and relaxing are just descending or draping down through you, through your crown of head, sides, closing your eyes, your eyelids, cheeks, lips, shoulders, jaw, warmth and relaxation. Moving down your upper arms into your forearms, into your hands and fingers, and all the way down as you rest your attention at the center of your chest. Smile to the heart. Release and let your upper back get heavy, your middle back, your low back. This warmth and tranquility is moving through you all the way into your solar plexus, your belly. Imagine it. What does it feel like to feel really comfortable? Imagine that now as your hips become heavy, warm, and very tranquil. Your thighs relax. Your knees let go. Just like a warm blanket of relaxation wraps itself around front and back of you, inside, all the way to your calves, your feet and toes. Now, if it's comfortable, you could always place that rice bag above your navel if you feel that it was calming for you and strengthening to that diaphragm. But again, the choice is yours. Now relax even deeper as you rest. And now imagine as you tense your right toes, let it tense. As tension moves up into your right calf, into your right knee, your right thigh and buttocks. And exhale, relax, let go. Hip, thigh, release the tension, knee, calf, foot, and toe. Now half as tight as the first time. Tighten your right toes, your foot, your calf, your knee, half as tightly, the thigh, the buttocks. And then drop and relax the tension. Let it become limp. Now the left foot. As tight as you can, tighten the toes, the foot, the calf, the left knee, the thigh, the buttocks, the belly even, and let it go. Blow it out now. And instead of doing, just enjoy being here as your eyes rest. One last time, we'll go back to that left foot. Half as much effort as the first time. Tighten your toes, your foot half as much, your calf, your knee, your thigh, your hip, belly. Let it go. Really. Now your whole lower body. Tense your buttocks, your thighs, your knees, your shins, your calves, your feet and toes tight. And let it go. Release. And as you're resting there, now notice your upper body. We're going to add this tension and release method of relaxation to the upper body. Tense your right hand, your forearm, your elbow, stretch it out, your bicep and tricep, down all the way up, and lift it barely up before and drop. Let your palms soft and warm as they face upward. Now half as much effort and intensity on that same right side. Stretch up or tighten up your right fist, your forearm, half as tight your elbow, your shoulder, chest. Breath in and let it go. Now go to your left side. Maybe you don't even have the effort any longer. Maybe by now you're so relaxed you don't even want to lift or tighten that hand. But go ahead and tighten and stretch your left hand, your fingers tighten your forearm and wrist, your elbow and shoulder. Breathe. And drop. Fall back into the arms of the earth that holds you. Now half as much effort as the first time. Tighten your hand or stretch it, your forearm, your wrist, your elbow, and way up. And let it go. Now as you're lying there, resting on your back, allow this tension to drift into your throat, your chest, as you tighten your throat and neck, your mouth, your jaw sticks out, your cheeks, your brow, your eyes, everything's tightening, your scalp and shoulders, upper back, and let it go. Let your mouth, lips, tongue from tip to root soften. Blow it out. And as you're resting now, barely at all, tighten and furl your brow, crinkle it, tighten your eyes, just a little bit, your cheeks, mouth. Even that little bit of tension, notice how it brings tension to your back. And then release, back, throat, your mouth, cheek, eyes, brow, forehead. As you rest there, stay there. And now as you rest in that place of deep relaxation, letting go now, your whole body. Imagine you're carried, like you're floating. Let your inner eyes rest like they're gazing forward to the darkness ahead of you, in front of the nostrils, maybe 5 or so inches ahead, your inner gaze. Just feel breath going in. As you let go even deeper, the outer body. Feeling your body heavy. Notice where your body feels heavy and where it feels light. Notice there's a part of you that's noticing. Now feel the outline of your body and let the whole body settle and sink even deeper. Even deeper now as you're lying on your back, resting. Now, take your awareness to the rise and fall of your breath, the breath that automatically soothes and calms you during these challenging times. You feel the breath and you feel the coolness of in-breath, and you say to yourself, I am at peace. And as you feel the warmth of out breath, you say to yourself, I release and let go. And then see if you can now let go even deeper into trusting that your body is now being supported. Now feel the breath go out through the tip of the nose and feel warmth. There's There's nothing to do other than notice. Feel the circle or cycle now of your breath going in. You feel calm, and as your breath goes out, you smile. And you let this peace come over your face, a lightness, like a beautiful, dewy, refreshing veil of peace. And then as you relax and you feel the breath go out, you might notice that thoughts or emotions pass through. And you might just notice the emotion. And if that emotion is whatever it is, you just kind of notice it. You label it, you say yes, I notice you, and then let it just go on by. And go home to your breath, traveling in through the base of nostrils, all the way inwardly up here towards the third eye, and then feel the breath cleansing and clearing out. So these thoughts and emotions just come like a parade, and we are the ones that can just notice them, noticing there's a part of us that witnesses and a part of us that is experiencing. So we are truly the witness. Just notice them. And as that thought comes through, maybe it's a fearful thought, maybe it's an anxious thought, you just say, okay, fear, I see you. And you let it go by. You breathe and you come home to your breath. Now, when you're ready, draw your knees into your chest. Take a deeper breath in. I am in the here. You can say to yourself. And as you take your knees to your chest, as you are lying on your back, now you release any tension in your back. And when you feel prepared and ready, you roll over to your left side. I am in the now. I have arrived. More present. Now as you open your eyes, notice the floor that you're lying on. The possessions around you that you've chosen. Notice the texture, the light. I am in the now, you say as you breathe in. Notice the sounds around you coming and going. And the one thing that is constant as you help yourself up, the one constant is your breath. It is there to support you. And so when you find yourself anxious, worried, you come home to your breath and you say to yourself, as you breathe in, take your hands to your heart center, you can say, I am calm. And just let yourself calm down. Be present. This is when your creativity flourishes, your problem solving arises when you're calm, not when you're trying to figure it out. It's already figured out in here. Just have to calm down. So as you breathe in, I am calm, you say. As you balance your head over your heart, as you breathe out, you say, I smile. Present moment is a wonderful moment. And you carry this peace with you. And the way in which you carry yourself affects others in a positive way, because the more calm you are, the greater your patience will be, the higher and happier your mood will be. And again, the more easy it will be for you to creatively problem solve and to live out your life's dreams. As you hear the bell, ask yourself, where am I? Take a breath in. I am in the here. I am in the now. As you breathe out, I have arrived and all is well in this moment. Carry that with you until the next practice. Practice every day. Peace be to you. Peace and well-being. Peace. And thank you so much for joining us today.